Radio Live. International. You Radio Live.
For today's spotlight, UMERADIO was originally founded in 2009. Back then, it was called Advanced Media Production. After winning first place in the Jamaica Broilers Fair Play Awards, the company ceased operations around 2012. In December 2018, the company was rebranded and brought back into operations with new ownership, and in February 2019, it launched its first radio station, UMERADIO, under the call sign WUME-DB, New York. UMERADIO is a digital radio station, owned and operated by UME Digital Media Inc., a digital studio and multimedia company, headquartered in Bronx, New York. Our brands are committed to inspiring, educating, and entertaining people through transformative and empowering content. Our mission is to reach 1 million households, touch 1 million lives, and showcase 1 million brands. Get the UMERADIO app for the full experience, available via your Apple and Google Play stores. If you want to listen on the web, you may go to app.umeradio.com or via our website at www.umeradio.com. Our content can be watched on Carib Vision. You can also listen in via Amazon Music, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Podcast, Podbean, TuneU, Live 365, Spotify, Stitcher Player, FM Listen Notes. For all business inquiries, contact us at info@umeradio.com. This station is 100% community funded. To support us, please visit umeradio.com/get involved. Subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere online at UMERADIO. Thank you for supporting us. UMERADIO, positive entertainment 24/7.
The name of my book is Reborn. And Reborn is a story, a personal story about my journey from a place of despair to fulfilling God's purpose in my life. I have gone through a lot of challenges, a lot of, things that happened to me in my childhood all the way to my adulthood. And the Lord impressed on my heart to write my story, to share with others. Because, one thing about me, I'm transparent. And I believe when you share your testimony is to help somebody else get out of their situation. Because a lot of us go through a lot of changes, a lot of challenges in life. Especially, I grew up in the church world, a very strict environment, very religious environment. And it had a lot of, stressors in my life. I didn't know who I was as a little girl. I grew up with parents. My father was a pastor, and I was totally lost in this church world. I didn't know who I was, or if I was worth anything, or if I had any type of purpose in life. So my vision about God was so warped because I never thought God loved me the way they presented it. So I was a very lonely young lady. I had a lot of low self-esteem. So I was just really trying to maneuver and to find my way, through life. So it was God who helped me through the process, even though I wasn't focusing on Him as much. I want to share something, and chapter 2, page 17, Forsaken. I just want to read a little excerpt of it. And it says, in 1975, as I attended middle school and the family moved to a large 4-bedroom apartment, bills. It was at this situation things began to worsen for me. For instance, I was punished a lot. At times, I never understood why. My father never believed that the Christian told lies. For instance, if someone from the church would report to him that they saw me somewhere and was doing something wrong, I would deny it. However, I would be told that I was a liar and receive the beating for it. So I became so tired of constantly being blamed and beaten for situations where I didn't have any idea. So I tried harder to be good, but notice each time I tried, it wasn't enough. And I realized that each time I would speak things, my mother would tell me to be quiet. And after a while, she developed a resentment to me. And, so I struggled a lot to be a part of a family. I struggled a lot to be seen. I struggled a lot to be loved. And this book is to help others who are struggling to find out who they are and find out their identity and who they are in God and whose they are, because it's so important to find who you are. You find yourself, because once you know who you are and knows whose you are in God, your life changes. And
Let's talk
Relationships on
UME
UME Radio.
So what are we talking about?
Marriage, dating, parenting, business.
And love, emotions, sex.
It's a conversation with me, Lady Misty,
And DJ KTE.
on everything from hot topics to taboos.
Join us Mondays at 9 p.m. live on UME Radio.
Follow us at Let's Talk Relationship Show on Facebook or on Yumi Radio on Instagram. Let's talk relationships, arguments for the grown.
Get the UME Radio app to listen wherever you are. That is UME Radio. One word.
UME Radio. Positive entertainment 24/7. Subscribe on YouTube and click the notification bell.
Hi, good
Welcome.
night.
Hey, Lady Misty in the
Hey, hi.
How we doing?
Hi, DJ KTE. I'm not bad at all. How are you?
Good. I'm loving your rap, man. It's like it's really just have this kind of
Thank
Arabian,
you.
Eastern, but yet Western
Yeah.
touch of coolness. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to stay warm.
Uh-oh.
It is very wet here on the island, and
Uh-oh.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to stay warm. How about you? How are things over there in your neck of
Well,
the woods?
I'm in this box myself. It's not necessarily summery peachy here right now, but
I
just got
understand.
make sure you got your coat ready and you're layered properly, right? And you'll be okay. But
All
yeah, we
right,
got
so
cold weather
sounds
happening right
good.
now.
So, for
Yeah,
all my listeners, good night and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Relationships. Wherever you are in your neck of the woods, I hope you're staying uh, warm and dry. All those over there in Canada, I know you're having
yes. Oh,
a
dry
rough
I
time
am.
over there right now, but I hope you are staying warm and you are keeping our company. So, thanks for joining us once more on Let's Talk Relationships here on Yumi Radio. Here we explore the dynamics and evolution of relationships, identify challenges, and of course, we offer perspectives through transformative conversations. Of course, we are here to promote strong, healthy family life and community. It's important for you to know that it's not our intention to offer opinions or advice on how you should live your personal life. As I always say, do you, boo, do you. But we advise that you do your own research, you be a free thinker, and make sure that you are doing well in your own life as well. and know that we wish you love and happiness. So we look forward to a great show tonight as usual. And of course, we start with an attitude of gratitude. So we want to say thank you to all our listeners, our viewers, our supporters, our partners from all over the world, wherever you are in your neck of the woods, listening or viewing us. We want to say thank you. For those of you over there on Facebook, on all the digital platforms, on YouTube as well, we want to say hello, 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 and good night.
Yeah. We also want to actually shout out those who have birthdays.
Yes.
Yeah, those birthdays. And really want to kind of big you all up because these are special moments that people share, as
That's
relationships, as
right.
they say. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I want to kind of shout you out that, that we really want to acknowledge you and that you will keep going and you'll have many more happy and great ones as the future unfolds.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that, DJ.
That's right. That's right. By the way, I'm loving your background though, but I must let y'all know, those who are watching, that
Thank you.
last year, I had anything, but soon I'm going to surprise you all with a very different kind of background. So don't get too comfortable here.
We look forward to it. We look
It's
forward to it.
It could be my shock for 2022. My
All
background
right.
is going to be crazy fly, as some would say.
Well, you know I'm here for it. So, I'm here for it.
Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Okay, all right.
I think I am.
Yeah. So
All right.
it is now what? January the 17th. Mine's flying.
Yeah, we are in mid-January already.
Yes, and the time right now is, to be exact, is 9:06 p.m.
All right.
Yeah.
So, coming up on the show tonight, we'll be having another interesting conversation. And our conversation tonight is around the topic, the effects of a parent's behavior on a child. Usually we talk about, relationship among adults, but tonight we want to explore the effects on the children in our lives, because of course relationships affect them too. And of course, this will be followed by Bible Cufflinks and Stilettos, hosted by author Giselle St. James, right here. So, here are some reminders before we begin.
And now for today's spotlight. UMERADIO was originally founded in 2009. Back then, it was called Advanced Media Production. After winning first place in the Jamaica Broilers Fair Play Awards, the company ceased operations around 2012. In December 2018, the company was rebranded and brought back into operations with new ownership, and in February 2019, it launched its first radio station, UMERADIO, under the call sign WUME-DB, New York. UMERADIO is a digital radio station, owned and operated by UME Digital Media Inc., a digital studio and multimedia company, headquartered in Bronx, New York. Our brands are committed to inspiring, educating, and entertaining people through transformative and empowering content. Our mission is to reach 1 million households, touch 1 million lives, and showcase 1 million brands. Get the UMERADIO app for the full experience, available via your Apple and Google Play stores. If you want to listen on the web, you may go to app.umeradio.com or via our website at www.umeradio.com. Our content can be watched on Creed Vision. You can also listen in via Amazon Music, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Podcast, Podbean, TuneU, Live 365, Spotify, Stitcher Player, FM Listen Notes. For all business inquiries, contact us at info@umeradio.com. This station is 100% community funded. To support us, please visit umeradio.com/get involved. Subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere online at UMERADIO. Thank you for supporting us. UMERADIO, positive entertainment 24/7.
All right.
Kind of keeping that kind of festive kind
Yeah, I
of
see you
it kind of
vibing
warms you
over
up.
there. Yeah. Yeah, positive
Ooh-wee.
entertainment 24/7. Now
Yeah.
listen up guys. If you have not yet subscribed, please go and do so right now. Right now. And of course, you can click also on the notification bell to be notified whenever we go live. So please like the video and share it with a friend or family member. And I'm seeing our persons over there on Facebook. Good night, y'all. Let's see. It says yes. It is said that children is a product of their environment. How we operate as examples to our children plays a crucial role in their personal growth, and that is the
Yeah.
truth right there. Good night to all our listeners and viewers on the various platforms. Now, to give you some perspective on the topic before we begin our panel discussion, here is a clip from one Saturday's live entertainment show.
Mhm.
Entertainment now on UMERADIO, WUMEDB New York. This show takes you beyond the music, dance, box office and thrills. For deeper and more meaningful insights into the minds and hearts of the players. We share stories about pop culture, celebrities, and everything entertainment, but with education and empowerment in mind. It's all about positive entertainment. Here is today's hot topic.
Today's hot topics. The Will Smith interview on Good Morning America, Porsha Williams's Family Matters, and her huge gesture to her mom, and SAG nomination for King Richard. Let's begin. In his new memoir, Will, the actor 53, delves into the most personal details of his life, from his relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith, to his at times traumatic childhood in Philadelphia. Smith said that his father, who died in 2016, was abusive toward his mother, and that dynamic affected him for years. Smith tried to bury those painful memories, and he never discussed them with his mother, until he decided to write his book.
This book doesn't waste any time.
Right.
I mean, you don't waste any time.
Yeah, page one.
Okay,
chapter
here we go.
One, line
Chapter
one.
1. Let me just read this bit. What you have come to understand as Will Smith, the alien annihilating MC, the bigger than life movie star, is largely a construction, a carefully crafted and honed character designed to protect myself, to hide myself from the world, to hide the coward.
My father was abusive with my mother, and I was probably 9, and I watched my father beat up my mother, and I was too scared to do anything. And just on my young mind, it became imprinted, it's like, what kind of kid stands there and lets somebody hit their mother and they don't do anything?
For the actor, the truth matters. It's why he's tried to be open about the hurt he's experienced in his life, and it's at the root of how he intends to conduct himself in the future. This story is courtesy of GoodMorningAmerica.com. That's how you help out your own. Porsha Williams reveals she left her home to her mom. Porsha Williams revealed on January 5th that she is officially moving out of her Duluth mansion. The reality star first purchased the residence in 2016 for $1.15 million. According to Realtor.com, the 5,920 square foot property has 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms, 5 fireplaces, top-of-the-line appliances, and is even a part of a golf community. This story was written by Diamond Jun and is courtesy of AtlantaBlackStar.com. According to the article published on January 12, Porsha Williams disclosed that she gifted her mother her former house as she moves into a new home with her fiancé Simon Gobadia. In an Instagram post that included an image of her former residence, Williams also disclosed in the caption that she is giving the mansion to her mother Diane Williams in addition to moving out. She wrote, "New start. Moving day congratulations, mommy at MS Diane Official. Now you can move all the furniture and decorate just how you want LOL." The Porsha Family Matters star added how much of a blessing it was to give her mom her former home. Having watched her show as research for this report, we have some understanding of how momentous this is for the star. In an episode of her show, she spoke about the traumatic experience of her childhood, when her mother and father had a less than harmonious relationship, as the pair never crossed the threshold of her life with both of them.
I am detaching from the thought that I don't want my daughter to have a threshold co-parenting situation. I never saw my mom step across Daddy and Lisa's step. Never. She was calling us to wonder if she was going to cross over the step, which would have meant, it would have meant a blending of the two families that I had grew up with. So it felt like she was a part of this other life that I didn't just spend my week on, and then all of a sudden, I'm just dropped into my dad's world. Even though I'm 40 years old, and I don't think I've ever even thought about this until I had Pilar. So I didn't want that for Pilar. It did affect me. I was trying to have, from the early on, my daughter be able to experience her two worlds colliding. I have just felt nothing but disappointment since I've got here, and so I'm having to now deal with what Pilar's world will actually look like.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much for that. Listen, just listening to that excerpt there, you are reminded of how much baggage we have carrying around as adults because some things are not dealt with in our childhood. Now, let me just read something for us, just to provide some more content before we get into our panel discussion. So here we have two examples of parent behaviors impacting their children. Good night, the Keith Donovan, new to the channel. Thank you and welcome. Grab a seat. All right. So we have two examples here. We have Will Smith's experience and we have Porsha's experience, and both parents in the marital home for Will, and in the case of Porsha, we have parents who were separated, living in separate homes. So she was part of two different lives, trying to navigate through that. Now, in one home, physical abuse was the trauma, and in the other home, the lack of a harmonious connection because of the separation, of course. Now, in my opinion, that is aggression or passive aggression. We're going to talk about it tonight. And of course, for those who are listening and viewing, you are free to chime in. Please drop your comments in and we will view and read them accordingly. So joining us tonight on our panel, we have Reverend Courtney Morrison, pastor of the Fellowship Tabernacle Portmore Church. He's a husband of 29 years and a father of 4 children. And of course, to join us as well, we have Miss Tina Devon, author of Preparing Yourself for Our Mate with God as Your Foundation. Good night, lady and gentlemen. Happy New Year. It's nice to see both of you. I hope you're doing well.
Awesome.
Well, I had a little technical difficulties, but I'm in.
I am happy that you are here. We're happy that you're here. Listen, I want to remind you guys that, our intent for this show, ladies and gentlemen, is to inspire, educate, and motivate in a positive way, right? Now, some of the things we talk about may not be positive, but at the end, we're going to get positivity out of it. All right. And we hope that you will find this information as helpful. Now, if this is a sensitive topic for you, please let us know in the comments. That's why you're here. All right. So join the table, snuggle up, get warm. We're talking to each other, right? We're a family here, right?
Yeah.
And of course.
Let me say quickly, Lady Misty, welcome.
Yes.
To you guys again. Personally, I want to hear my voice. I want to hear your voice saying, hey. But I'm glad to see you guys back. It's been a while.
Great.
Mr. Courtney, Pastor Courtney, and Tina, of course. I'm excited about tonight, and I'm looking forward to hear you guys talk about some real stuff here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see Satin Brownie. Good night, Satin Brownie. She loved all the guests, but the man of wisdom is here, Reverend Courtney Morrison. Yes, love when you are on. It is sensitive for you indeed, but we're happy we're talking about it. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us and sharing with us. All right. So there is a Facebook person that says, my parents never demonstrated affection towards each other. My brothers grew up the same way towards their spouses. Wow. Then I ended up marrying a man that had the same attribute. Listen, we have to break this chain tonight. And it starts with conversation. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the emotional impact of how adults relate in relationships and the effect it has on children. And we have two different scenarios here. We have the scenario of Will Smith. It is a popular story going around, it's all over social media, all over the media houses, as he wrote his memoir, and it speaks to his childhood trauma. He grew up in a very strict household. His father was in the military, and abuse was a part of his growing up. He saw that. He spoke to him being 9 years old and seeing his father beat his mother, and he held on to that, thinking that he was helpless in that situation. There's nothing he could do, and he carried that into his adulthood. Also, we have another scenario of Miss Porsha Williams, who is now engaged, and she is now recounting instances in her own relationship with her parents, being that they were separated, and she had to navigate that and the effects it had on her. So we want to talk about, firstly, the emotional impact of divorce and separation. Usually, we talk about, the effect on the man, on the woman, but we don't usually talk about the children. What is your take on it? On how emotionally damaged our children can be from this experience? Let me start with Miss Devon.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Okay, so I've been divorced. And I had children in the relationship. However, the children were not the individual that I was married to and I divorced. So, the children kind of took the trait on me. I think I was nervous. I was scared, and I was a little bit emotionally distraught due to the reason why I left the marriage. So, as the children was growing up, as I continued, because I was fairly young, as I was continuing to go to school, I learned how to balance my emotions, which helped the children in the long run. So I believe my children had a chance because I realized then that whatever emotions that I was dealing with at that time, I knew that my children would probably take on those traits. So I had a chance to reverse the cycle.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Interesting.
Rev, good night.
Good night. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, right.
How is everyone? It's
We're doing
interesting
well.
that God has given us a process that none of us can escape. Apart from Adam, everyone was born a child and has to go through the process of getting up and growing into adulthood. And so we all have experiences of our own growing up as children, some pleasant, some unpleasant, some traumatic. You know, there's a little poem that says, children live what they learn. And interestingly, I learned that when I was a child, and that poem in itself teaches us a number of things. So that even as I heard Mr. Vaughn speak, the childhood experiences that we have can either make or break us. We can either learn from them and experience life lessons from them to actually be different. For example, when I saw my dad, he had so many women. Yes. I know of at
Wow.
least 5 different women, although he was married. I'm the product of one of the woman that he was not married to. And strangely enough, as a child growing up, somehow as a young man, I decided I'd never be like my father. I would be married to one woman, which I've been married to for the past 30 years, 4 adult children in the
Awesome.
relationship with just her alone. My father's malpractices
Mm.
made me make
Yes.
the decision, even before I was a Christian, that I would be at home with my children. They would see their father and experience the love of their father. And so
Yes.
our experiences can help us to either, although they are stumbling blocks, we can have them as stepping
Yes.
stones and grow. It's interesting, as I said, that there's a poem say, if a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives
Yes.
with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If he lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. Yes. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. I like that. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child
Yes.
lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. And if a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world. This is a poem written by Dorothy Lou Noite. And it's important that we recognize that we all go through that process. None of us asked to be here. Every one of us have to go through the process of being children. And it is evident that when we become adults or become parents, that we are now the influencers that may determine our children's lifestyle, whether by dietary practice, education, sexual orientation practice, business or occupational
Right.
choices, partner or spousal choice, religious beliefs, and usually even our emotional responses and behavioral
Yes.
attitudes. It can be a turn off or it can be an upturn. And so we have choices to make even in growing up. Some of these traumatic, unpleasant experiences can either cause us to decide to rise to the top and not be like what we saw as examples. And that's a choice we all have to make, or we can learn to live with the approval and the fairness and turn out being people of justice. It's rough when there's a divorce. And I think now research is actually showing that
Yes.
they're paying more attention to the effect it has on our children, because our children are usually the one most affected. Their young minds are not yet able to adequately deal with some of the traumatic experiences that are being seen by parents, the behavior that parents exhibit. And so they try, and usually they like Will, I can't do a thing about this thing. And he believes he was a coward or is afraid. He probably actually, if he had entered in, would have gotten the beating of his life from his dad. So he probably did a right thing. What he now has to do is not blame himself, but to
Yes.
recognize that it could have been that he himself would have also gotten into the fray. It's a horrible thing for the woman and the wife to be beaten and feeling helpless. Yet he has to learn not to blame himself for the bad and wrong concepts that his father had.
Yes. It's something that he carried. Go ahead, DJ KTE.
Yeah, finish your thought. It's fine. I'll
Yes,
definitely.
I was just listening to Rev, and um this is something that he carried for a long time. And he spoke about decision. He made a decision that he would never be like his father, just as, Reverend Courtney Morrison just spoke about um, him making that choice not to follow the footsteps of his father, being, promiscuous and all of that. Uh, And I was listening, and I listened to an interview. He was Will Smith now was speaking with his own wife. I think it was a Father's Day special of Red Table Talk. And he was saying his first marriage was a failure to him. That was failure because he was trying so hard not to be what his father was.
Wow.
And so, him being married to his previous wife and it ending in divorce was failure for him. And that broke him, and brought back all of those things to him. So, if it's not dealt with, it can be devastating. And I listened to Miss Devon as well, and listening to Portia's story as well, as she spoke about separation, and how she being moved from one parent to the other parent, wondering if it's going to be moving to a step situation, and how that affected her, and how devastating that can be. And I want to ask Miss Devon this question. you know I know you said that you shifted the gear so that your children could come out of it as smooth as possible. But how was it with the separation and co-parenting? What was that like for your children? How did they express themselves? Is there anything they were uncomfortable with? Because I know younger children, as I have it here, younger children struggle to understand what's happening, and grade level children, in the middle there, they are the ones who may think that divorce is their fault, just as how Will Smith thought that the abuse and him not being able to help was his fault. And of course, teenagers, they are the ones that are most rebellious sometimes, and they're angry at all the things that it creates, the changes the environment creates around them. So I want to ask you, Miss Devon, how was that for you and your children? Did they express themselves to you? It must have been an uncomfortable situation.
Okay. Good question. This is kind of going into my next book, which is my autobiography, which is Recompense. So,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
thank you. So the thing of that one is, my children were silent. They were silent, but there's something about a woman's intuition. It's something about something that we feel in the inside. My divorce was a little bit different. It was a little bit different. And I explained to my children when we were getting a divorce, they were relieved. But when we were getting a divorce, I explained to them as we were in transition, as we were hiding from, not going into everything, but hiding from my ex-husband, until I got restraining orders. I had to let them know it's okay. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. These are things that I had to tell them, and I think it's not the schoolwork that got me through it, because I did psychology to get me through my marriage instead of getting on my knees and praying to God. I needed a way out. But psychology didn't help me. The book didn't help me. It gave me um, definitions, but it didn't give me direction. I had to really pray, and I prayed and I prayed and I asked God. The only thing I could do in the midst of that was ask him, God, could you please mask my heart? Mask my heart, because even though I'm out of love, I'm still in love. So every time I get to pack my bags, I would unpack my bags, which caused a little confusion. And my kids were like, Mom, are you really leaving? Mom, are you really leaving? To the point where they were a bit confused. So that's why I had to tell them it's not your fault. It's okay. This is what's going on. But I had to be honest with my children. A lot of times we go around things and we're not honest with our children. Our children hear. One thing about children is they hear. If you really think
That's the
about it,
truth.
yes, if you really think about your childhood, you remember the things that your mom and your dad said. You may believe
Yes.
you may remember some things that they did, but you're going to hear what they said. It just runs back in your memory.
And that was very interesting. Interesting how you brought it out, because I think that your story, um, it's very more common than we think. It's more common than we think. But I remember being a young man, probably 7, 8 years old, and as I reflected back on Will Smith's story, how he talked about him being 9 and he felt powerless in the defense of his mom. Now I remember clearly my dad might have been playing around, but in my mind, he was being serious. But it could be playing around. But I remember him having a belt, right? And I remember my mom was in my room. And it was hitting her. It felt like it was playing but hidden, because I never seen that before, so I couldn't make any sense of it. I didn't hear any loud noise or talking. It was like almost like playing serious. But maybe she wasn't that playful at that moment, and maybe he was, or maybe because I'm thinking at the time they might have been maybe 30 something, maybe 40 something, so they're pretty young in their age. I'm like, I felt such aggression, like he's hitting my mom. In my little mind, I'm like, I know it's not. Keep
Mm-hmm.
thinking about doing that. But again, I watched it. It didn't last for a long time, but it gripped my heart in such a way that I'm like, wow. So I was
Right,
imagining
right.
what Simmons seen that actual beating, the actually event, take place. So as Scott
Yes.
and Mars were saying, that these things are they have far-reaching effects on a young mind, and him talking about seeing what he saw and what he experienced. It made such a drastic decision to not be that way. That I'm going to purpose in my heart that what I saw, I have this something totally different. So it's interesting how this it brings out such pain, but yet still such a different direction that affects even future generations. So there's some beauty in it. I'm seeing as I hear you guys share your stories.
DJ KTE, if I may be allowed, as I heard even Lady Mitzi speak to that, there's a young man who decided he was not going to be like his dad, and then eventually end up failing in some areas, and seeing his shortcomings. I can understand that. I've had that experience as a father, where
Mm.
I've seen some things in my dad, and if I were not careful, I could have gone down another road. And
Mm.
you know, one things I've had to learn to do was to apologize to my children. I mean, the youngest one just got married a month ago. He's 24. They're all adult children. There's basically an empty house now. Yet,
Oh.
on Father's Day just last year, when my son was handing me a gift in front of church, he says, "Dad, you know what I really love about you is that you apologize when you're wrong. You're not afraid to." Because there are many of us who will decide that we are putting an end to a generational curse, whether
That's it.
whether by our young ladies marrying into the exact
Mm-hmm.
dilemma that they saw that they wouldn't want to be a part of, or the man
That's right.
himself who have vowed that he will not walk that road, end up becoming a perpetrator of the very thing that he hated. And I'm thanking God that myself, who is a part of Magavo, the Bureau of Gender Affairs here in Jamaica, has launched a program not only that deals with the victim,
Mm-hmm.
and we tend they have changed and coined a new phrase. They don't necessarily call them victims, they call them survivors. And they have moved to another term that they call them overcomers, not just
Okay.
survivors.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
the abusers, the perpetrators of the act are given counsel, because there are many of our men, many of our women who purpose not to and still end up perpetuating the very cycle which they decided that they would break
That's
themselves,
true.
or end up in the very same
Mm-hmm.
position that they didn't want to
Yes.
be in.
Yeah,
And
I've seen that quite a few
that
people
sort
say.
of trauma now is a different trauma that really plays with the adult's mind, not just the children, because they're having children and they're trying to deal with their own sanity, deal with their own mental health, deal with their own safety, yet at the
Mm-hmm.
same time help the family
Mhm.
to get past all that is happening. So it becomes a twofold uh, dilemma for them. You know, the dichotomy of thought: who do I do? Do I leave and carry the children with me? Do I stay and
Mhm.
face what is still happening? And one of the things we still advocate for here is counseling. A lot of the focus on our men being abusers is that whatever the triggers are that may have gotten you to exhibit the lack of self-control for you to become abusive, let's speak to that, because it may have been something that happened in the past that is
Yeah.
traumatic, that
Yeah.
has
Yeah. Yeah.
caused the trigger. You know, we are Christians, so we speak to generational curses. Is this something that happened in your bloodline?
Yes,
Mhm.
And it is
that's important.
happening again, your children experiencing the very same issues. How can we start open conversations that we don't think our children are either too young to hear, but an act of preparation for life skills and how to approach the
Mhm.
very traumatic events that can propel us either into a place that we become just salvage, or whether or
Mhm.
not we're in a place where we're walking in success. We have to ensure that we are
Mhm.
walking as adults who were children once, who are
Mhm.
byproducts of our own lives as children and experiencing what adulthood was before us. There's a sermon I once preached. I was invited by some adults. It's about 20 years ago. And the sermon was, and it was a youth service. What's wrong with our children?
Mhm.
And everyone was surprised at the answer I gave them. I used a scripture that says, you're a generation of vipers. And I made them know every generation called a generation that hates them, a generation of
That's
vipers.
true.
And I said, here is a reality and a truth that we don't see in that scripture. Only vipers can produce vipers. Snakes
There
can
you
Wow.
only
go.
produce snakes. And therefore, our children are a reflection
Wow.
of who we are. So
Mhm.
I said,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong with our children is our adults. And the church was silent. It's either by what we teach or what we allow that shapes the lives of our
Mhm.
children emotionally, psychologically. The only thing we don't do is shape them physiologically. Yes,
Mhm.
that just
Yes.
happens. But in terms of how they think, in terms of their choices as to whether or not they're going to turn away from what you're teaching them because of the bad role model that you set up, or whether or not,
Yes.
and oftentimes we deem it rebellion, when it's really
Mhm.
not rebellion. It's them with their own minds trying to prevent themselves from being hurt any further.
Yeah. Find a
It's
way.
a
Find a
defense
way.
mechanism.
It is,
Mm.
there you go, a
Mm.
coping strategy for them
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that they don't go over the edge. Some
Wow.
go over.
Wow. Yes, definitely, definitely. I want to acknowledge those who are really engaging with us tonight. Good night, Apostle Faith. I see you chiming in. I also see Travel Escapades. Good night, good night, good night. Thank you so much for your comments. Listen, we are having such an interesting conversation. I saw a question from Travel Escapades saying, how do we start this conversation with our children? Right, here it is. How is the best way to start this conversation with my children if I am the abuser, but I want to apologize?
Wow.
That's a very good question.
Can I give an answer?
If I am the
Sure.
abuser, how do I start the conversation with my children?
Let's remember, abuse is not only physical.
There you go. That's it.
We have to start with that Dr. Lekim Samad says even physical abuse may have its genesis in emotional abuse.
Mm-hmm.
For men who don't believe that they can win the conversation, they think this is the route out to win the battle,
Mm.
which is usually
Yes.
wrong because we advocate no excuse for abuse. For the mothers who are single parents, especially if the young boy, that's the culture here in Jamaica, if the young boy looks like the daddy, all the frustration is taken out on that child.
I've seen
Make
that.
it papa, make
Oh
it there,
my.
you know,
Woo!
and it becomes
Oh my God.
Dr. Gale a couple of years ago had to go down to one of our parishes to release a boy who was tied to a tree, doused in honey,
Wow.
with his foot in an
Wow.
ant's nest, tied
Oh
by his
my
mother.
God.
The
Ooh.
mother was so frustrated.
Mm.
There was little support from the father. The boy himself seemed to be acting out, and sometimes we don't even understand that he's acting out his own traumatic views of not seeing a father. A
Yeah.
Nigerian asked a question in a meeting which we had by the University of the West Indies. If in Jamaica it's true that 85% of your households are headed by women, why are your boys so violent? And
Mm.
the room
Mm.
was silent.
Wow.
But to begin the conversation on the abuse, it's going to take a certain amount of humility and courage because I didn't even know there was such a thing until I started doing these studies that there are men in Jamaica who believe if you apologize, you're not a man. I never knew they
Yes, you're
did.
soft.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, I was
Yes.
shocked
Wow.
It
because
is
I'm
a
a man who
thing.
cry, apologize.
It is a
My
thing, Rev. It is a
and
thing. And
I don't
in the
understand.
African American community, it is a thing. And I hear Will Smith talking about this, letting go of, he called it the parent ego.
Yeah,
Letting go of the parent ego. Because while he was speaking about his trauma, in his Father's Day special, he spoke about, the impact of his children, because he has a son from his first marriage, and some of the ways he went about, parenting, he saw his father coming out. And when you talk about apologizing, that is something so deep and so important that children hold on to. And letting go of that parent ego,
yes.
and humbling yourself, allowing your children to see the human side of you. Yes, you are the authority figure, but you also feel, and you also do wrong, and they respect you even more when you're that vulnerable with them. Yes, DJ.
And yeah, let me throw this in there because that's a very important point. But I think that, and I've heard this before, there are men who apologize, but some of these men they have traumas that they haven't dealt with and probably can't deal with, and probably need professional help to deal with it. So when they apologize to it, that woman, that wife, that girlfriend, whatever it is, he can't stop that trauma, that thing that's going on with him within himself. After this third, four, five, six times apologizing, all of a sudden it's like, okay, what is that about? You know? So now he seems now as if he's number one, his word don't mean anything. He sees less than,
Hmm.
and sometimes he's treated less than because he keep apologizing, but the trauma is not changing. The situation is not changing because this man has a problem that needs to be fixed. So I've heard it from several people before where the man said apologizing is like she just taking for a joke. It's like otherwise, like what am I apologizing for? Because the situation is not fixed and it needs to be fixed in the first place. So the problem
Yeah.
become like a bandage that doesn't really work. That's just another thought I want to bring out there. But if I could say this to Miss Devon, ask a question real quick. Um, as you mentioned about your kids during your divorce, um, now you said you tried to remain calm, but did you find that there were some real challenges as each of the kids, their personality started maybe changing, acting different? They started acting differently in terms of how they just to find a balance. Were there like a very you know very sporadic behaviors with each of the kids, their personality and how they treated situation that you could address?
I'm sorry, you were kind of fading out, and my camera was going in and out, so I couldn't really hear the question. I apologize,
I'm so
but
sorry. No,
from what I heard, I think you were saying that were my children's behavior. Just repeat the question for me.
no worries. How much did the behavior vary in terms of their
Okay.
age and personality, and was it a greater chance for you to kind of keep, as a mom, I get the sense that you want to keep things together as much as possible without things becoming explosive. So, how did
hmm
you find that balance?
Okay. So, if I can gather that question correctly, as when when I got a divorce and my children were fairly young, they were
Okay.
very young.
Okay.
So they knew, but they didn't know. So I could pretty
Okay.
much frame their mind and cultivate how I wanted
Gotcha.
them to
Okay.
view the situation.
Interesting.
They were
Okay.
young enough.
Okay.
hmm
Understood.
Yeah, but I have to be honest with you. My oldest son feels like, even though he was younger, he still feels like he has to protect me.
Okay.
He feels like he has to be the protector. So I'm not married right
Boys
now.
are
I've
usually
always
like that.
yeah,
Yes.
but but my youngest one was the father that I divorced. So he never ever had the experience that the other children had, and he has so many questions that I
Oh
haven't
wow.
answered yet.
Interesting.
He
Wow.
still doesn't know why we got a divorce, and I feel like he can't handle it right now. So
Oh
I'm
wow.
going to
Okay.
wait until he's old enough to handle it.
Okay.
That's how I'm going to handle him.
Got interesting. Interesting.
Isn't
Got
it
you.
interesting though how children believes in partnership with in the parents, that they believe that parents really should stay together, live together, love together, even
Yes.
with their young minds.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yes.
Yeah.
interesting?
Yeah.
hmm
Very
That
interesting.
one
hmm
separation occurs, it's almost like death for our children, you know.
Yeah,
In a form
that's
of
true.
separation is like that. They see somewhat of a perfect world, in the sense, even when the abuse is occurring, they're still
Yes.
seeing forgiveness, they're still seeing scope for change, they're still hoping for the better. And by Bible's definition, that's love. Love endureth all things, believe at all
Hmm.
things, hope at all
Hope at
things.
all things. Yes.
It is just a definition. So children understand love and forgiveness, I would say, even to a greater extent than us as adults, who have had the traumas over the years that has
Hmm.
warped and indelibly just twisted some of the contours of our minds, that we are not able to necessarily speak from a balanced position, but speak from a position of hurt most often. And hurting
Hmm.
people needs healing. You know,
That's
we,
right.
we often hear the saying, hurting people hurt people.
Hurt
But
people.
hurting people
Hmm.
needs healing. The professional care, I was sitting and say, hey, professional care is awesome and highly rated and should be. Yet, one of the reasons why professional care works well is because they have been trained to show how to care. The bottom line really is that persons want to feel valuable, feel worthy, feel loved, feel accepted. When that sort of foundation is betrayed, broken, then persons are going to feel as if, hear what? I wonder if I was the one that did something wrong,
hmm
when truly it everything we do is a choice and a decision. I remember a young lady once said something in a meeting. We're talking about black men and anger, and we're talking about slavery, and we're talking about how it has been passed through the genealogy.
Hmm.
And there you go, that's one of the programs that we have set up right now currently to help our men who have found themselves in a place that they don't even know, they don't understand, and many people are looking at, oh, you're a man, you should know better, you should this, when really and
Right.
truly the man himself is going through trauma, not understanding why did he just hit and try to destroy the very person he declared that he loves.
Wow.
And
Wow.
while we're thinking about genealogy and the old issue of race and slavery, and we spoke to it, and we spoke to a number of issues. One young lady said something that has not left my mind. She says, regardless of race, culture, or whatever it is, our choices, even in anger, is a decision.
Yes, it
Yes.
And I
is.
was like,
Wow.
wow, that
Our
that that there
choices, even in anger, is a
decision.
decision. Listen. I pause right there. Pause right there. Listen, I don't know. We do need to go up until 12 midnight, but we can't. Listen, the curtains are almost coming down. It's almost 10 o'clock already. Can you believe that? It's
It
almost
flies
10
so fast.
o'clock already. But listen,
It,
what a deep way to pull the curtains down. Listen, a decision, a decision. Remind me of it again, Rev.
Mhm.
I just love it. I want to write it down.
Regardless of our position of
Regardless
anger,
of our position of anger, yes.
what we do is still a decision. It doesn't matter
What
race,
we do is
culture,
still
creed,
a
belief. It's
decision.
always about making a decision. It is
yeah.
true that anger and alcohol are two disablers of our
Yes.
conscious thought. And
Mhm.
what is embedded in our subconscious can come flowing to the top once our conscious overriding thought becomes disabled. So we speak about
Wow.
anger and alcohol causing us to
Mhm.
become irrational, and our lips will say anything that's already on the inside. You want
Yes.
to
Yes,
hear what
exactly.
a man thinks, get him drunk, they say.
Get him drunk or get him angry.
Yes, there you go.
Ah, all
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much, man. What a fulsome conversation tonight. Listen, I'm feeling so full, and it feels like, that inkling like you haven't gotten enough. Like after you eat, you want something sweet.
More,
Yes,
more, more, more.
that's how the conversation is.
Yes.
Listen, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Devon, for coming, for sharing your experience with
Yes.
us, for being so open. I see Travel Escapade saying that he's bawling. Healing is coming. Yes, purpose
Amen.
is happening
Oh,
through these
wow.
conversations. Oh my God. I told you about this man of wisdom, Satin Brown. He said, Tobia is saying, talk about it, Pastor. So true. Listen, I see Apostle saying, well, if they admit, uh, I missed Apostles, yes, if they admit they are wrong, it's a big if, because admitting demonstrate that they lose control. That's true, and will get respect only if they crave it on a constant basis.
Wow.
Listen, listen, purpose has been fulfilled tonight. I feel so full. Thank you so much for taking the time out and for sharing with us. As always, Reverend Courtney Morrison, you are just here dropping gems as always.
Hmm.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being open with us, Miss Devon. And we wish you every success
Yes.
with your book. And
Amen.
I
Please.
know it will bring healing. And tell us about it so we can, help you
Yeah.
to spread the word. Yes, we are all about healing and purpose here on LTR. And we are happy that we could provide that for you. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for sharing with us tonight. It was a pleasure as
Sure was. Sure was. Sure was.
usual. Listen to all our listeners tonight who engaged with us, who listened, who viewed, who shared their comments. Thank you so much for keeping our company. It was an awesome night, an awesome discussion. Not true, DJ KTE? Oh, I just
I
feel
thought it was
so. Whew.
pretty. Yeah, it was a pretty. It felt short. We normally go to like
Yes,
11:30. I mean 10:30 and
yes,
12. But it was good. I think we want to have him back at some point. Because so much was being said that I think I hear more on this conversation in the future. And it was
definitely,
really nice.
definitely,
Really empowering.
definitely.
Empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes. So
guys, don't
yes.
don't go away. Coming up is Bible cufflinks and stilettos. A deeper conversation is gonna happen right after we sign off about us as sexual beings. So stay tuned for that. Well, thank you so much for joining us, all our partners, listeners, viewers, commenters, those who stick and stay with us every week here on Let's Talk Relationships. It's a pleasure as usual. And We'll see you next week. Thank you so much once more to our guests for coming in and for sharing with us. Have yourselves a great night.
And one
Underneath
last
it
thing,
all, who are we sexually?
remember, guys, one last thing. If the kids are sleeping, don't wake them up. Have a good night.
Underneath it all, who are we sexually? Bible, cufflinks, and stilettos, with Giselle St. James. Monday nights at 10 p.m. For mature audiences only.
Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Bible Cufflinks and Stilettos. It's me again. It's Giselle St. James, author, counselor, everything in one, and your gracious host tonight. I am so happy to be joining you here this evening as we continue our conversation on owning my sexuality. The last 2 weeks have been amazing. Remember, the first week we went into, who we are underneath it all, and we looked at ways that we can figure out who we are sexually. And then last week, we had that dynamic conversation with Dr. Faith as we talked about spiritually who we are and owning that side of us. So this week is going to be another exciting week. And I don't even want to take too much out of the conversation that we're going to have tonight. So I just want us to go into our self check. We're going to go into our self check because for me, self check is important. We have to see where we are at. So before we go into our session, let's talk. I'm just asking you three self check questions. Are you relaxed? Next question. Will you clear your mind from all preconceived notions as it relates to sex and intimacy? Will you accept what this session will teach you tonight? Now, if your answers are yes, it means that we're ready to go, right? Right. We are ready to go. Now, as I would have mentioned to you, we're having that real, honest, and practical conversation about owning our sexuality. And tonight, we're going to be joined by our life coach, our success coach, Coach Raquel, as we talk to you about owning your sexuality from an empowered perspective. As I said last week, we looked at the spiritual aspect of it. And tonight we are really delving in to an empowered point of view, and we want you guys to join the conversation. I want you to like, comment, share it with everyone that you know of, and we can have this open and honest conversation about something that has been so neglected within our community, whether it is the Black community or it is faith-based community. It has been long neglected, and we are owning this conversation and putting it out there in a positive way. So, as you know, I like to make sure that I have some prayer while we're at it. So, Lord, we thank you for this conversation. We thank you for this topic. We thank you for the persons who birthed this topic. And Lord, I pray that as we have this discussion tonight, that Lord, we will not lean onto our own understanding, but we will allow ourselves to be open to your inspiration. Thank you for what will be discussed here tonight. Thank you for the person's eyes that will be open. And thank you for the more acceptance of self that will occur as a result of tonight's episode. We believe all that you are for us. We believe in everything that you have inspired us to do. So I pray that others will be inspired as well to have this conversation with their spouses and have greater sex as you would have ordained. Thank you once more in your name I pray. Amen. So last week, ladies and gentlemen, we looked at the scripture from Genesis 2, verse 25. Now, this week, we are looking at it in a more in-depth way. And when I talk about in-depth, we're talking about from that socially, emotionally, you know, every other alley that we have not looked at yet. All of those ways, those personal ways, that empowered way where we can say we are owning who we are because no one is going to make us feel ashamed of it. And to talk a little bit more of that is with us, Coach Raquel. Coach, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Great.
Can you hear me?
Great. I am well. I am so excited.
Wonderful.
I am hearing you. Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this conversation.
Me too.
Because
Yes.
you see, when we talk about sex, we are so closed-minded
Mhm.
about this conversation. We don't even want to talk about it sometimes, even amongst our friends. And sometimes when we're amongst our friends, we succumb to groupthink. Groupthink
Yes.
sometimes beats us because we're saying, okay, so they like that sort of thing. So maybe I need to like that sort of thing too. We probably don't do our own investigation, our own research. We just feel like because the majority of my friends like that particular thing, oh, I will like it too. If they don't like a certain thing, I don't like it either. How can we as human beings get away from things like groupthink, especially when it comes to owning our sexuality?
The thing is, if I don't, how do I honor me? How do I value me? How do I put me first when I don't know me? When I
Mm,
don't, and if I don't know me, how do I know me sexually? How do I know what I like, what I don't like, if I am in a space where I'm unwilling to even explore who I am? I also think that
yes.
I think sometimes what happens is because society has this great energy and culture comes with this energy, we allow
Mm-hmm.
ourselves to be eroded by all that information and opinions
Mm,
and thoughts and ideas, and we take it on and it just erodes all of what we are already thinking for ourselves or wanting for ourselves or knowing of
yes.
ourselves. And
Yes.
so for some people, they I
Yes.
believe they feel like they've already lost the fight, so it's easier to just go along to get along.
Go along with it. Yes. Yes.
I'll
Yes.
just go
Yes.
along to get
And
along because it's easier.
go along to get along. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. And
Yes.
as I would have shared in the last episode, you're in a group of people and they're talking about how, oh, I waited until I got married, before I had sex, and you're there not wanting to talk about it because listen, I didn't wait. I had to wait through three men who unsatisfied me before I could find my husband who satisfied me, or not even that, before I found a man who satisfied me. And we hardly want to talk about that part of it because we're in a space that
Yeah.
their
Judgment.
idea of sex, right? Their
Yeah, you're
idea
going
of
to be
sex is so
judged.
judgmental.
Yes.
Right. So we hide that part of us because of the fear of judgment. But in
Yes.
order to own our sexuality, we have to strip off those scales of fear.
Right, because the judgment first comes from
Yeah,
us. We're already judging ourselves,
exactly.
and we're judging those who are talking.
Exactly.
So if you see, we have to get to a place of truth. We have to get to a place of truth of who am I? Who am I and who do I want to be? Right? And what does sex mean to me? I was born through sex. I mean, sex embodies me. How do we pretend like something that brought us here, that is how we were conceived, that is how we come into existence. Now, how do we get to a place where this essential thing becomes so tabooed that we disregard it? I think these are disregarding our sexuality leads to us having all the other relational issues. Because when I can't be myself, I remember when I started being expressive, my favorite word is the F word, and I'm proud to say it. I'm not afraid of it. But I remember when I started being open and having conversations, people would draw to the conclusion, and even my friends would be asking me, "You're having a lot of sex?" And I was very celibate. You know, it's as though for you to acknowledge your sexuality, then you must be pounding. You're experiencing a lot of pounding. Because we associate it with prostitution, and I think it's about time we reclaim that. We need to reclaim that. Sex does not belong to the dark sides of society. And I'm not saying that prostitution is the dark side, but the way we speak about it, it's as though it is. It's in this dark room. Keep it around there. You know, your nipples showing, cover it up. And I'm not even saying to expose yourself or not, but someone who's confident in who they are and understand this is who I am, and you can really truly say this is what makes me feel sexy. This is because sexiness and sex by itself isn't a sin, so why do we treat it like one?
Isn't a sin. Exactly. Our body isn't a sin either.
Exactly.
We can't keep treating our bodies as sinful.
Yes, exactly. But that is what we do, and I think sometimes we do it because we want to feel accepted. I think a lot of us are wearing a lot of masks, right? We want to go with the path of least resistance because we don't want to have to fight. Hi, Apostle Faith. Thank you for greeting us. It's nice to see you.
Hi.
Yes, but you see, if you're living in shame in any area of your life, it will show up in your bedroom. It will show up in your relationship. I always say, I always say that you will never get a result greater than the quality or quantity of your relationships. And that applies in the bedroom as well. You will never get the best out of your husband if you cannot get the best out of your own sexuality, right? You can't get the best out of your wife if you yourself have a warped understanding of sexuality. And I think that there is an intentional disruption of the flow of sexuality and sex, because with sex comes power. With sex comes power. Comes power, right? Whether power over someone or the power to become or be something. Sex is used because this is the question, right? How did sex get so tabooed in one area of society? But in another area of society, it is the most profitable commodity.
Free. Yes.
Right? They use sex to sell everything. Right? So how does this thing that everyone sees as the way to wealth, the way to generate income, become so tabooed in another area? How does it affect our economic understanding and our economic power? When sex is tabooed, it affects everything about your life. It affects your community. It affects your capacity. And so we have to really look into these things and really explore and ask ourselves, because the culprit is not the external person. It's us. We make up the society. We make up the culture. Exactly. There you go.
Warp it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because and sometimes this comes from the trauma that we go through as a child. Sometimes the introduction of sex to us is so unpleasant. So we start thinking this is an unpleasant, ugly thing. It's an ugly thing. And by saying it's an ugly thing, we're saying I am an ugly thing. So this is what I say, get therapy and coaching so you can have the sex life you deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You deserve. I love that. I love that. I think I want to talk about what Dr. Faith is saying. She's saying why sex is taboo is because many from the church world believe it should be in its perspective, as the scripture says, that we must be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And for them, that's it. And it's so true. And when we are taught that this is what sex is for, and we don't look at the other side of it, that it is also for pleasure, we find that, okay, if it is not having to do with being fruitful and multiplying, it's wrong.
Yes.
So we have to now retrain our thinking into
Yes.
knowing that it is not just to be fruitful and multiply. It is for stress relief. It is just if you want to
I call
have
it the free
deeper
vacation.
connection with your spouse. Oh
Yes.
yes, man. Oh yes.
It's the
Oh
only
yes.
vacation.
Oh
It's
yes.
the, you know what I always I pay attention to when you eat something that tastes really nice. For me, it feels orgasmic. When I'm really connecting
Oh
with
yes.
God, for me, it feels orgasmic.
Some
When you
good
have
food.
really good
Yeah.
sex, it is supposed to be orgasmic. So I have to ask myself,
Yes.
God intended for me to have orgasmic experiences.
Yes. Yes.
So I have to know.
Exactly.
Yes. So I have to get to a place where I understand my own individuality and understand that, yes, there's a culture. Yes, there are people going through different experiences, but how do I find my voice? Like I think it's Kiki that says, how do I quiet the noise to find my voice? There is something that Marsha gave from the Wealth Mindset show on Saturday. She said something about wealth, and I think it's applicable to sex. She said, there's a quote that someone told her, it's your stinking thinking that's got you sinking. I think the same thing applies in sex. The way you think about it, the way you process it, the way you treat it is the reason you're not having good sex.
Yes.
Good sex is not just
Having good
about
sex.
right.
Yes.
You've got to sit, and I believe that if you're a believer and question things, it's okay to question even the Bible. While all purposes are influenced, all purposes are inspired by God, but men execute it. Men execute it. And as long as I believe, this is my belief, as long as man imprinted on anything, I am within my right to question it, because it means it isn't perfect. So even in the case of the Bible, yes, and remember, even the Bible was contextual. Everything could not hold in this one book. They couldn't break down everything for you. So you have to decide, what do I want my sex life to be? That's you're the only. Yes, it's okay to have access to all these information, to do research, to reflect on, to see, okay, what will bring me harmony, because there is also a need. Nobody wants to walk out and every time you step out of your house you're arguing with someone. So yes, there is a certain amount of getting along or agreement that you desire, but every life should have a plan. Every business have a plan, right? Every business has a plan. So every life should have a plan. You know why they let you register your business? I believe they have you register your business because they needed to have a birth certificate, because that thing becomes an entity. It's the same thing with a human being. You're an entity. You have to have a life plan. You have to have anything you want to succeed in, whether it's sex, money, or anything. You've got to have a plan around it. Why is it we invest so heavily in education, but we leave our relationships and our sex life to chance? Why?
Yes, true.
And expect it to just happen. It's just supposed to happen. You know, and anything that you're hiding, anything you're doing in hiding cannot be fully explored or enjoyed.
Oh no.
So we have to get to a place of, I'm lovely, I'm beautiful, I'm sexy, I can touch myself if I want to. It's my body.
Right,
How can
right,
touching me
right.
be nasty or ugly or anything? And it doesn't,
Exactly,
and it's only down to,
exactly.
do I want to? Do I want to?
Right,
And there are people listening to me
right.
right now thinking, I'm touching myself. See? Open your minds. It's okay to have a conversation around something. It's okay to explore it.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
okay to
And
to go
you
in.
touch on that.
Yes.
You touch on that, coach, and I just want to say there are some times, well, I don't know about anybody else, but I knew about in my marriage, my
Yes.
husband would want me to do that, and in the initial stages I couldn't. I felt
Wow.
so weird, he's watching me, and I'm like, no, why do you want me to do that? I couldn't understand it. But this is someone I'm saying, but I can do it in private. Why can't I do it in front of my husband?
There
And
you
it's
go.
the moments that I started to, all right, let me change and reframe my thinking. That is when those little things started coming out of my head, like, all right, maybe I don't look good enough, or it's going to look weird. I start stripping away those little thoughts, and I was able to now open myself up to him like a flower, so that he
Yes.
can see, the
Mm-hmm.
nectar of that pleasure. So we
Yes.
have to strip away those previous conceived notions, those preconceived notions about sex,
Yes.
and it being nasty and dirty, and those
Right.
things that we think are private. We now need to bring it over into our relationship so that we can have richer sexual experiences.
Right. And we really need to ask ourselves, I was born this way. I was conceived through sex. At
Mhm.
what point in my life did I start thinking the way I entered this world was bad and horrendous and just disgusting? And go back there
Yeah.
and fix that.
Mm.
Go back there and
Yes.
fix that. Yes. I'm
Yes.
single,
Yes.
but this is why I'm single.
Yes.
I want to have some great, amazing, mind blowing
Mm-hmm.
sex. And because I want that, I want to wait for the
That's
person
right.
who I feel confident with and safe with to be able to have just
Mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
amazing, wonderful sex.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Can I use the
Yes.
F word on
Yes.
this show?
And
Go have sex. It's okay. Yes? It's
yes,
your
man.
personal business.
Go.
You
Go.
choose to do it. Yes? I used to say this as a driver, right? On the road. Sometimes when I'm driving, persons will be like, the traffic light, that it's that. And I'll be like, calm down. I can break the traffic light. I can break the laws governing the use of the road. I just know there's a consequence. It's not, I think sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
take in these information and we make them fact. We solidify them in our
Yeah.
minds and they become gospel fact, like, oh my gosh, this is how it has to be. It's a
Mm.
crying shame if faith believers, if believers or people of faith who have a husband or a wife who love them are having mediocre sex. What a shame. That's where you should go invest, I believe,
Mm.
because when that's
Mm.
when
Yes. Yes.
when sexually we become satisfied, we become empowered, we become
Mm-hmm.
inspired. I have
We
worked
are
with the sexual health
empowered.
authority.
Yes.
Exactly, I worked with the sexual health authority in Jamaica for a long time. I was there for, I think it was like between 4 or 5 years, and thereafter I became a consultant with them. And when I took the time to listen to even the research, that what the data is saying and everything, I'm like,
Mm.
so why it's free? It's the only free vacation that you get. That you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to ask for
Yes.
it. You
Yes.
can do it
Yes.
anytime, anywhere. Yet we rob ourselves of it because we are robbing ourselves.
Oh yes.
We are stealing it
We
from
are.
ourselves.
We are.
Yes, I think we have to
Yes.
get into the habit
And we
of.
are robbing from ourselves too.
Mhm.
We are robbing from ourselves too when we don't open ourselves up to what we can offer. Because if
Right.
we're owning our sexuality, it's not just about what we can get sexually, but what can we offer
Offer,
sexually as
yes.
well. We
Hmm.
need to get there as well. So we are robbing ourselves of really mind blowing sex when we don't talk about what we can offer as well, when we don't have
Right.
a conversation, an open, honest conversation that,
Mm-hmm.
you know how men like to talk about what women bring to the table and all that kind of
Right.
thing. We need to start talking about sexually what it is that we bring to the table. And we're not just talking
Yes.
about, oh, I can have bomb sex. No, 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 no.
Right.
Talk about it. When you're making a budget, don't you itemize
There
everything,
you
but
go.
itemize what you
Yes.
bring to the table sexually.
Absolutely.
Itemize what
Absolutely.
you bring to the table. And if I'm owning my sexuality, I
Hmm.
must be able to say the words. It is not just,
Yes.
oh, I will kiss your penis. No, no, no. I give bomb head, or I
And
put
I
on
will
ring or a
massage
cup.
it and use my
And
lips to
I
massage my
oh
tongue
what
to massage it, or
talk
whatever
about it.
you like to
Talk
do. Whatever
about it.
you must. This is what
Talk
I think.
about it.
If I cannot have an open conversation with a man, then you're not going to be
Right.
inserting your
Right.
penis inside of me. We must be able to talk
Simple.
about what we're about to do. And if I can't speak about it in a
Yes.
safe place with you,
Mm-hmm.
then what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing inside of me? Sex is such
Right.
a soul
Right.
connecting process.
Oh my
Why are we doing it
goodness.
under the
Yes.
cover?
Yeah.
If you can't
Yeah.
love all, I'm the prize. He's a prize
Mm-hmm.
too. But if,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
you can't love all of me,
That's
what am I
right.
doing with you in bed?
That is
What am,
right.
what am I doing? So it's you cannot, until you own you have nothing to offer to anyone. So
Oh, come
until you
on.
own your sexuality, you have
Nothing
no
to
sex,
offer.
no romance, none of that to
Come
offer.
on. Talk about it.
What are you
Talk about it.
offering?
Talk about it.
There's nothing like, have you ever had an honest conversation with someone? Like, true, it is so inspiring. Just imagine if you're with someone who you can have this great conversation with, this openness, this, and
Open.
and when you're
Mm-hmm.
done, and you can say, I didn't really like that, or I like that. And when
Yeah.
you're done, that person can compliment and say, yeah, I kind of like this one
Mm-hmm.
too. Just imagine
Oh
what
yes.
you could cook up
Oh yes.
if we
Oh
could
yes.
just talk about it
Oh yes.
and engage. Sex is a topic like Bible, like
Yes.
happiness. It's no different.
Oh yes.
And because we talk
Mm-hmm.
about sex with such passion or whatever, doesn't mean we're having great sex. I'm celibate, but I'm a learned person. I'm an avid reader. I'm
Exactly.
also I'm an insightful person.
Exactly.
I know who I am. I know what I like. I can have a conversation on sex or any other topic and go
That's
on for
right.
days. That does not tell
That's
you who I
right.
am.
That is right.
That does not tell you who I am, and it doesn't
Exactly.
tell you who I am in
Exactly.
my bedroom.
It just means that you own. It just says that you own your
I own my
sexuality.
sexuality,
That's
and in
just what
so
it
doing,
means.
I can
That's just what it
freely
means.
speak about it because I have nothing to be
That is
ashamed
right.
about. And if you go ahead,
Exactly.
yes,
And
and this is it.
a big thing for me,
Mhm.
sorry, a big
That's
thing for
okay.
me is because I am an author. I'm an
Yes.
author and I write erotic romances.
Mhm.
My imagination goes wild because I am so open sexually in terms of
Mhm.
having a conversation, in terms of research. I am a big person on research. I like to research.
Yeah, me
I like
too.
to I like to look at things to make sure that I'm coming from an informed standpoint. So when I write about sex, in the way that I write it, when people, males, read my book, the first thing they start thinking is that, oh, you're having a lot of sex. Oh, this cannot be just from your head. This has to be from experience. No, it's not from experience
And
well
if it is
alone.
from experience, it's the experience of instinct. You have instinct too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know what pleases me. I know what pleases me. So I write about what could possibly please me and in the way that it could please me. So it's not about me having a lot of sex. I am coming from,
And it
yes, an
shouldn't and
informed
it shouldn't
standpoint
be
because
whether or
I
not
was
you are. Focus.
focused.
Think on yourself.
Focused.
Focus
You know
on
what I'm
your
saying?
yeah. So
That is
when
right.
someone talks about
That
something
is
and you're
right.
busy in their life, who is it? Whose sex life are you trying to build? Theirs or yours?
Mm,
Focus on your own. But this is where I think
exactly.
everything starts,
Exactly.
right? We have to become
Mm-hmm.
health seeking and help seeking.
Yes.
Yes, we need to become health
Yeah.
seeking and help seeking, because I
Help
do
seeking.
believe that it could be that persons who are experiencing negative who are having negative sexual experiences could be people who have health issues that they may need to address. Yes, and for those persons
Yeah.
who feel that who have gone through sexual traumas, I have,
Trauma.
but yes, seek help. This is why I say seek help. That whoever robbed you or mistreated you or abused you should never get the win in the end.
That's right.
They
That's
should
right.
never be the reason you never have the. Listen, life is so tough and challenging.
Mm.
Listen, Lord, send my husband because I ought to be having amazing sex. I deserve it. You know what I mean? If you're married, do it, because sometimes it helps, it's healing, it's comforting, it's there to, it was God's way of. That's why I know God is an amazing God, because he thought that, hey, I'm not just going to say produce. There are many ways he could have right reproduction, but he
Yes.
decided that he's going to make it so that you get something out of it. Come on.
Out of it.
Call
Yes.
in your
That's
card to
right.
God.
That's
Call
right.
in, and
That's
you're
right.
always
That's
praying. You're
right.
praying about money, and you're praying about tragedy and all kind of. Sometimes,
Pray
listen.
about having good
I hear
sex
people
too.
praying about life is miserable. Stop it. Pray for great sex. Pray for great sex. Lord,
Oh
I
yes.
need
Oh yes.
amazing orgasms.
Come on. Come on.
Empower my
Talk
husband,
about
my
it.
wife, so they can learn my body.
Body. Yes. Come
Yes.
on.
Teach my partner how to love me, how to open me up like a
Yes.
flower, how to connect
Yes.
with me.
Yes.
Nothing is wrong with that.
Come
Nothing's
on.
wrong with it. It's just another topic for discussion.
That's
Like
right.
every
That's
other areas of
all.
your life, you should never enter into anything without proper conversation and medical checks.
And coach,
Yes.
I just want to say, I saw the question earlier about why do we feel like good sex determines a good marital relationship. Listen, a
We
lot of us
confuse it. Yes.
neglect sex in a relationship. We feel like it's not important. We're not saying it is the end all be all, but if all you are focusing on in your marriage is just to connect, you know, relationally, emotionally, but you're forgetting those physical aspects that make you up. All of these things, when you talk about making love, ladies and gentlemen, it talks about sex, it talks about the emotional connection, it talks about even the psychological connection that you have with the person. All of
And with
those things is
yourself.
called
And with
making love,
yourself.
and with yourself.
Yes.
It's all about making love. And if I bring myself to the table as whole as I am, as empowered as I am sexually, and the other person brings themselves to the table as whole and empowered and sexual as they are, it enhances the
It
relationship.
has the potential to, yes, but and in addition to that, in response to the question, I understand what she's saying. Where I remember there was a clip that Apostle Faith said when she said, "Because we had sex, you don't know me." Yeah, there are many ways to have sex. There is where you're having sex with a partner, or it's just a pastime, or it's just an
Yeah.
activity, an event that you have and you get past. Because some persons have, I don't know if you call it recreational sex or whatever it's called,
Stress
right?
relief. Stress relief.
Sex is only one aspect of a relationship, and it does not a
Yeah,
relationship define.
that's right.
Sex
That is
does
right.
not define what a relationship
That is
is.
it.
There's a whole lot more that goes into what a relationship is. However, I think there's an error that we make sometimes is that we get into relationships just for sex or
Sex.
primarily for sex. And
Talk
that
about
runs
it.
us
Talk
into a
about it.
lot of
Talk about
issues.
it.
So
Talk
that's what I'll
about it.
say.
Talk
Yeah.
about it. Yes. So, 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 so true. And this is one thing that I will end with, ladies and gentlemen. If you are empowered in owning who you are sexually, listen to me. Sex can be cathartic. You can be having some good sex, and in the next moment, you are bawling your eyes out. Not because it's bad, not because it probably brought up some terrible memories or anything like that, but it's because it brings you so much release and relief and catharsis. It makes you shed. So if you are owning that power within you sexually, you can use it for good. And that is what I want to make sure that you're doing. You're using your sexuality for good. You are not lording it over anyone. You are not using it to harm anyone, and you're not using it to harm yourself. Be empowered as you navigate your relationship sexually. And you know this, it is not just the only part of your relationship. Don't neglect the other parts, but make sure that you are empowered to talk openly and honestly about who you are sexually and what you can offer to make your relationship an even better one. So, ladies and gentlemen, woo, the conversation done, and it coming like it's just getting exciting. I want to thank Coach Raquel for being here with us tonight to talk to us about that empowered standpoint that we're on as it relates to owning our sexuality. I hope that what we have said here really and truly opened your mind to what it is that you can offer. And I want you to have that in your head, in your mind, that when you talk to your spouse, that you are being open and honest about what it is that makes you tick and what it is that you can use to really help them to experience you in a more fruitful way sexually. So until next week, remember to like, comment, subscribe, everything, so that you can be reminded of our next episode. If you still want to talk about tonight's topic, and if you have questions to ask, just email us at ltranswers@gmail.com. See you next week, same time, same place. We're going to be having more open and honest conversation about those things that interest you. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And remember, until then, have great sex as the Lord intended.
Did you find this information helpful? Please let us know. And if you have a topic on your mind, which you would like for us to talk about, do not hesitate to reach out. Email us at ltranswers@gmail.com. For access to resources and additional information, please sign up free at our support website, www.familyalltheway.com. If you need help, connect with Dr. Faith Walters at www.familyalltheway.com/therapy with Dr. Faith. Get the help you need to develop and maintain strong, healthy relationships. Thanks for watching.